Wondered what your thoughts were within the sector, within higher education. What is it that you notice about women and women leading?
So I think the thing is, I noticed two things. So first of all, the split between academia and professional services. When you're talking to women in academia, what they're really finding is that big problem around publishing. So actually getting published in the first place, which, if we're being kind, we can call unconscious bias. And we can say, okay, well, there's some very simple things we can do. Just remove names from applications. Maybe set quotas for the amount of women published in each edition, things like that. But if we're being honest, a lot of it is really quite conscious bias. So people are aware of it, but they want to support their friends. They want to support the people they work with. They want to support the people they feel comfortable with. The reality is, though, that's not just being a nice person. That is being biased against somebody else. And we need to be a bit more aggressive about that and actually call it out and ask for some really committed movement on that front. And I think that's the one thing that would definitely change things for women in academia right now. The flip of that is professional services. And I think particularly within higher education institutions, and I see this in a lot of institutions where the professional services is not the kind of dominant function, they're not being recognised. And we talk a lot about what do women want in the workplace. Is it more flexibility? Is it the ability to set their own hours? Is it better pay? Actually, generally what women want in all working places is recognition and an option to advance. An actual understanding that they're going somewhere in their career, that this is a proper career, that it's not a nice thing that they do, it's not something they turn up for and they get a pat on the head and a little well done. It's actually something that has meaning and purpose and value. And I don't think that professional services within higher education at the moment really have that strong leadership in place that gives that, or proper career plans and recognition of what these people bring to the institution. So the value is still in academia and it's not being recognised in professional services as well. In both cases, there's also a really strong problem around women and children. So maternity leave and how you manage that, both in academia and also professional services, and how you return from it is a really big issue. Looking at actually, do you have to have a set career path? Can you take time out? Can you come back? What does that mean for your career? And actually exploring it with an open mind, as opposed to saying, this has been the way that we've done things for however many centuries. This is how we will continue to do them. One of the fabulous things about organisations which have centuries and centuries of history behind them is they have very clear established patterns and everyone knows where they stand. The bad side of that is it can take a very long time to make change. And so actually I think probably if you want to see change on either side, what there needs to be is a bit of radical thinking and a few really strong targets to make it happen.
So a common question that we ask women and men, leaders at all genders, is what advice would they give their younger self? If you're thinking over your life, still very young, what would you say to your younger self?
I would say that it's not going to look how you think it's going to look at any point. That everything is an opportunity. Everything. The bad stuff is an opportunity. Yes, it's an opportunity to learn, but it might also be an opportunity to meet somebody who changes your career. It might be an opportunity to learn a new skill. It might be an opportunity to get out of somewhere that was not serving you. So look at everything, good or bad, as an opportunity. And finally, value yourself most. So no one is ever going to value you more than you value your own self. So set that marker really, really high, and that's what people will respond to.
What would you say Harriet Minter is best known for today, 2017?
Oh, I hope she's known for Proceed Until Apprehended. Proceed Until Apprehended is in fact still my mantra. It's the thing that got me ahead at The Guardian. It's the thing that created my career. It's having an idea, believing in it, and just making it happen somehow by hook or by crook in some sort of shabby, thrown together, whatever you can bring, whatever resources you can create, just make it happen. Even when people are telling you no, because most of the time that no is coming from somebody else's fear. So if you can allay that fear, if you can show them that it's possible, you can create any world that you want to live in.
And who do you look to for leadership? Who is your ideal leader?
I think I meet women all the time that I look to for leadership. I'm such a fangirl of most of the women that I meet, to be honest. I think I'm really lucky that I have really brilliant friends who inspire me every single day. I've met some of the greatest female leaders in the world and I've learned something from all of them. But probably the other thing that I've learned from all of them is that none of them are perfect. None of them are the finished package. And that's not because they're female, that's because they're human. And so actually we are all flawed in some way. None of us are perfect leaders, none of us are perfect people. And appreciating that and learning that has probably been the greatest learning for me.
Harriet, what would you say if someone were to ask you, as I'm about to, what makes you most resilient?
There's a really interesting study that shows that, I can't remember the exact percentage, but a large percentage of British Prime Ministers lost a parent in childhood. So actually there's something about facing some sort of trauma in childhood that does make people naturally more resilient. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn it. Resilience is something that can absolutely be learned, and I've really had to learn it because it's not something I'm naturally good at. So for me, it's about being aware of two things. So the first is that resilience is different from endurance. It's not the same thing at all. Endurance is about being able to get around a marathon, no matter what, like crawling around it, pulling yourself across the finish line and then collapsing. That's endurance. But resilience is about being able to get around that marathon and still save enough so that you can walk away at the end of it. And that for me is really important, is that knowledge of actually where is that resilience level in your kind of personal life? Where are you now? Do you have enough in the tank that if necessary you can still walk away? So keeping that in mind at all times. And then the other thing is something someone told me once, which I love and I just find really useful, which is about thinking about what the balance of life and work is in your life. So if you can learn something every day, if you can take some sort of physical exercise every day, if you can have a moment of quiet every day, if you can have a deep conversation with every day, and if you can do something good for people every day, if you can do all that, your resilience levels are going to be really, really high. It doesn't have to be big, it can be very small. But it's quite hard sometimes to keep track of that. So one of my friends, a woman called Emma Stroud, told me this fantastic idea, which was to have a rainbow diary. And so she actually puts different things in different colours in her diary. So she'll have, say, work in red, she'll have exercise in green, she'll have time with her family in blue, time with her friends in yellow, etc., etc. And so she can see at a glance how much of any of those she has had. And actually, if she's just seeing 3 weeks of red, she knows that she needs more time with her family, she needs more exercise, whatever it is. If she's only seeing time with her family, she might be like, oh, I need to do a bit more work. But being able to see that at a glance and know where that balance is in your life, I think is really important.
That's a really good point on which to end. Thanks, Harriet.
Thank you.